It's a cold, misty night in Victorian London, the kind where the gaslights flicker like nervous eyes and the fog swallows secrets whole. A young woman, draped in silk, steps out of a grand manor, her heels clicking on the cobblestones. She's Eleanor Langley, heiress to a fortune, beloved by society, and the last hope of her family's legacy. She glances over her shoulder as if she knows someone's watching, then hurries into a waiting carriage. The horses clatter away and the fog closes in. By morning, Eleanor has gone no trace, no ransom, no clue. The city whispers her name, but the truth, it's buried deeper than the Thames mud. What happened to Eleanor Langley? And why does it feel like only Sherlock Holmes can unravel this mystery? Stick with me, because this is a tale of deception, danger, and deduction that'll keep you guessing until the final twist. Welcome to the Disappearing Heiress, a case only Holmes could solve. If you love a good mystery, hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss a single clue. London in 1888 is a city of contrasts, opulent ballrooms and squalid alleys, glittering wealth and desperate secrets. At the centre of its high society stands the Langley family, a dynasty built on shipping and speculation, their fortune rivaling the crown's. Eleanor Langley, their only daughter, is the jewel in their crown. At 23, she's not just beautiful, her stormy grey eyes and quick wit make her a force. Charming dukes and poets alike, she's set to inherit millions, estates in Kent, shares in the East India Company, and a collection of jewels that could make a Maharaja jealous. But on the night of October 12th, something goes terribly wrong. Eleanor, dressed for a charity ball at the Grosvenor Hotel, steps out of the Langley mansion in Mayfair. Her sapphire gown shimmers under the gaslights, her pearl comb glints, and that single glove white silk, embroidered with the L, is clutched in her hand. She's expected to return by midnight. She never does. By morning, her bed is untouched, her jewelry box undisturbed, her life seemingly erased. The police comb the city, but all they find is that glove, discarded in a narrow alley off Drury Lane. Its pristine silk marred by reddish clay that doesn't belong in London's soot-choked streets. The newspapers explode, heiress vanishes. Without a trace, the Langley curse strikes again, the public devours every word. But the Langley family, Lord Reginald, Lady Margaret, and their son Charles remain eerily silent, their grand home a fortress against prying eyes. This is no simple disappearance. This is a mystery wrapped in shadows, and it's about to land on the doorstep of 1B Baker Street. Let's set the stage. It's a dreary afternoon, rain lashing the windows of Holmes's cluttered rooms. Sherlock Holmes, lean and sharp as a blade, sits by the fire, his pipe sending curls of smoke toward the ceiling. His violin lies abandoned on a chair, its strings silent, a sure sign his mind is restless. Dr. John Watson, ever the chronicler, scribbles notes from their last case, muttering about Holmes's impossible habits. You'll set the curtains on fire with that pipe one day. Watson grumbles, but Holmes only smirks. His eyes distant, a sharp knock breaks the quiet. A messenger boy, drenched and shivering, thrusts a letter into Watson's hands before bolting back into the storm. The envelope is heavy, sealed with crimson wax bearing the Langley crest, a lion rampant, claws bared. Holmes slices it open with a letter opener, his movements precise, almost predatory. The letter is from Lord Reginald Langley, Eleanor's father, and its tone is desperate. Mr. Holmes, my daughter is gone. The police are useless. I know she's alive, but someone wants her erased. Please, you're our only hope. Enclosed is a newspaper clipping about the vanishing, with a photograph of Eleanor, her face radiant yet haunted, as if she knew something was coming. Holmes's eyes gleam like polished steel. Watson, he says, tapping the letter. This is no ordinary case. This is a game, and someone is playing it very well. Watson, ever practical, isn't convinced. Holmes' London's full of runaways and rogues. Maybe she eloped, or worse, met some ruffian in an alley. Holmes's laugh is sharp, like breaking glass. Elope, Watson, with a fortune waiting. And ruffians don't leave gloves embroidered with silk. No, this is deliberate. Look at this. He holds up the glove, sent with the letter, its white silk now faintly yellowed. The reddish clay smudged across its palm. Holmes examines it under a magnifying glass, his long fingers tracing the stitching. This clay. He murmurs, it's from the cliffs of Dover. Not a speck of it exists naturally in London. Curious, don't you think? Watson frowns, his moustache twitching. Dover. That's miles away. Why would an heiress be near Dover clay? Holmes doesn't answer, but his smile is a blade's edge. He's already piecing together a puzzle the rest of the world can't even see. The duo sets off for the Langley mansion, a towering edifice of marble and gloom in the heart of Mayfair. The rain has stopped, but the air is heavy, the fog creeping. Back like a thief, the butler, a gaunt man named Harrow, ushers them into a parlour dripping with Wealth crystal chandeliers, Persian rugs, and portraits of Langley ancestors glaring down with disapproving eyes. Lord Reginald meets them, a tall man with silver hair and a face carved from worry. His hands tremble as he speaks. She was happy, he insists. The ball was her idea charity for orphans. She left at 8, said she'd be back by midnight. Then nothing. Lady Margaret, Eleanor's mother, sits by the fire, her eyes red-rimmed, a handkerchief crumpled in her fist. She's alive, she whispers, almost to herself. I'd know if she were gone. But Charles, Eleanor's older brother, is a different story. He lounges in a corner, his dark suit pristine, his expression unreadable. Holmes notes the way Charles's fingers tap the armrest, the way his eyes flick to the door, as if expecting someone or something to burst through. You were close to your sister? Holmes asks, his tone deceptively mild. The gaslights of London flicker like dying stars, as Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson step out of 1B Baker Street. The night air sharp with the bite of autumn. The Dover clay on Eleanor Langley's glove is their only lead, a faint thread in her tapestry of lies. Holmes, his coat collar turned up against the chill, moves with the purpose of a bloodhound, his sharp features cutting through the fog. Watson, clutching his revolver beneath his coat, follows close, his breath visible in the damp air. Holmes, he says, his voice low, Dover's 100 miles away. How could clay from there end up on her glove in London? Holmes's eyes glint, reflecting the dim glow of a passing lantern. Exactly, Watson. Someone brought it here, or someone took her there. Either way, it's no accident. Their destination is Whitechapel, a labyrinth of narrow alleys and shadowed doorways, where secrets fester like open wounds. The trail of the clay leads to a disreputable pub, the Black Anchor, rumoured to be a haunt for smugglers and worse. If Eleanor's disappearance is tied to something bigger, this is where the threads might start to unravel. The fog thickens, swallowing the city's sounds, and Watson can't shake the feeling they're being watched. The Black Anchor squats at the end of a cobbled lane, its windows grimy, its sign creaking in the wind. Inside, the air is thick with tobacco smoke and a sour tang of cheap ale. Dock workers, thieves, and sailors huddle over tables, their voices a low growl. Holmes, unfazed, scans the room like a hawk, his gaze locking on a man in the corner. Weary figure with a scarred face and a coat dusted with faint reddish clay. There, Holmes murmurs, nodding subtly. Watson's hand tightens on his revolver as they approach, the crowd parting like water around a stone. The man who calls, himself Jack Tanner, is a smuggler known to skirt the Dover coast. His eyes narrow at Holmes's approach, but there's no escape. You've seen this clay before. Holmes says, not a question, holding up the glove. Tanner's face twitches, his fingers curling around a chipped mug. Don't know what you're on about, he growls, but his eyes betray him, darting to a door at the back of the pub. Holmes leans in, his voice soft but deadly. Lie to me again, Mr. Tanner, and you'll find Newgate far less forgiving than I am. Tanner's story, pried out like a splinter, is fragmented but telling. He admits to working for a shadowy group, called the Order of the Saffron Veil, a secret society whispered about in London's underworld. They deal in secrets, not goods, and their members include men of power, politicians, merchants, even aristocrats. The clay. It's from a hidden cove near Dover, where the order meets in an abandoned smuggler's den. Tanner swears he never saw Eleanor, but last week he delivered a crate of documents to a man with a posh accent and a limp. Someone high up in the order. Didn't see his face, Tanner mutters, but he paid in gold. Holmes's mind races documents. Dover, a man with a limp. Could this be the sea from Eleanor's diary? Or is it Lord Reginald's mysterious cigar-smoking guest? Watson, catching Holmes's intensity, presses Tanner further, but the smuggler clams up, fear outweighing greed. They'll kill me, he whispers, glancing at the shadows. Holmes slips him a shilling and a warning. Stay in London, Tanner. Running won't save you. Back in the fog-drenched streets, Holmes is silent, his mind a storm of connections. The Order of the Saffron Veil is no myth, it's a network of influence. And Eleanor's disappearance feels like a move in a larger game. Watson, ever the soldier, suggests storming the Dover Cove, but Holmes shakes his head. We need more, Watson. The diary mentioned a deal, a secret. We're missing a piece. Their next stop is the British Museum, where Holmes knows a reclusive archivist, Professor Mortimer Hale, who's studied secret societies for decades. The museum at night is a maze of shadows, its marble halls echoing with their footsteps. Hale, a stooped man with spectacles like twin moons, is reluctant but caves under Holmes's relentless logic. He confirms the order exists, its roots stretching back to the Napoleonic Wars, a cabal of elites trading in blackmail and power. They wear saffron-coloured sashes, Hale whispers, and their symbol is a crescent moon. Holmes's eyes narrow. Eleanor's diary had a sketch of a crescent in the margin, almost invisible. Was she entangled with the order, willingly or not? The plot thickens when Hale mentions a rumour. The order's latest scheme involves a missing heiress, though he doesn't know her name. They've been active near Dover. He adds something about a shipment, not goods but information. Holmes presses for more, but Hale clams up, his hands trembling. I've said too much. They have eyes everywhere. As Holmes and Watson leave, a figure watches from the museum's shadows, a man with a limp, his face hidden by a scarf. Watson doesn't notice, but Holmes does, his hand tightening on his cane. The game is growing dangerous, and the stakes are climbing. Back at 1B, Holmes spreads out Eleanor's diary, the glove, and a map of Dover. The crescent sketch, the clay, the order, they're connected. But how was Eleanor a victim, a pawn, or a player? Her diary's cryptic lines haunt Watson. He knows my secret. The deal must hold. Holmes traces the map's coastline, his finger stopping at a cove marked with a faint crescent symbol. Tomorrow, Watson, he says, we go to Dover. But first, we need to know who C is. The Langley mansion looms in Holmes's mind. Charles's detachment, the cigar stubs. Lady Margaret's fears something's rotten in that house. Holmes suspects Charles knows more than he's letting on, but is he C, or is there another player? The man with the limp keeps surfacing, a ghost in the narrative. Holmes sends a telegram to Inspector Lestrade at Scotland Yard, requesting records of known associates of the order. If Eleanor's alive, Holmes says, she's either hiding or hidden. If she's, the train to Dover rattles through the dawn, its whistle slicing through the mist that clings to the English countryside. Sherlock Holmes sits by the window, his sharp profile etched against the grey light, his fingers drumming a restless rhythm. On the armrest, Dr. Watson, nursing a cup of tepid tea, watches him, knowing that silence means Holmes's mind is a furnace burning through possibilities. The Dover clay, the order of the Saffron Veil, the crescent symbol in Eleanor Langley's diary, they're all pointing to a hidden cove along the coast, a smuggler's haunt where secrets are buried deeper than the chalk cliffs. Holmes, Watson ventures, what if this cove is a trap? The order sounds like the kind of lot that doesn't take kindly to snooping. Holmes's lips twitch. Not quite a smile. Then we'll have to be cleverer than they are, Watson. The train lurches, and the sea comes into view, its waves, crashing like a warning. The cove awaits, and with it, answers or danger. They disembark at Dover, the salt air sharp and the wind tugging at their coats. Holmes leads the way, his map marked with the crescent symbol guiding them to a rugged stretch of coast, where the cliffs loom like silent sentinels. The cove is hidden, accessible only by a narrow path winding down from the cliff's edge, its entrance masked by jagged rocks. Watson's boots slip on the damp stones, but Holmes moves like a cat, his eyes scanning for signs: broken twigs, scuffed earth, anything out of place. At the cove's mouth they find it, a faint trail of reddish clay, identical to the stain on Eleanor's glove. This is no coincidence, Holmes murmurs, crouching to examine the ground. He points to fresh footprints, heavy and uneven, suggesting a man with a limp. Watson's hand drifts to his revolver, his pulse quickening. The cove is eerily quiet, the only sound the rhythmic crash of waves and the distant cry of a gull. But there's something else, a faint hum, like voices muffled. By stone. Holmes's eyes gleam. We're not alone. The cove's interior is a labyrinth of caves, their walls slick with seawater and etched with strange symbols, crescents carved deep, some stained with what looks like rust or blood. Watson shudders, but Holmes is undeterred, his lantern casting long shadows as they venture deeper. They find evidence of recent activity, a crate splintered open, its contents gone, a torn scrap of saffron-coloured fabric, a cigarette stub, cheap and acrid, like the ones in the Langley mansion. Holmes pockets the fabric, his mind racing. The order was here, he says, and recently. But what were they hiding? Watson spots a glint in the sand, a woman's earring, a pearl teardrop that matches the comb Eleanor wore the night she vanished. Good Lord, Holmes. Watson whispers, she was here. Holmes examines the earring, his face unreadable. Or someone wants us to think she was? The hum grows louder and Holmes signals for silence, leading them toward a hidden chamber. Inside, the air is thick with the smell of salt and something metallic. A crude altar stands at the center, draped in saffron cloth, surrounded by candles. Burned to stubs, on the altar lies a ledger, its pages filled with coded entries, names, dates, sums of money. Holmes flips through it, his fingers swift but precise. One entry catches his eye, EL, delivery secured. Payment to C. Watson's breath catches. Eleanor, and C again. Holmes nods, but his attention shifts to a noise, a shuffle of boots on stone. They're not alone. A figure emerges from the shadows, a man with a limp, his face half hidden by a scarf. His voice is low, cultured, and cold. You're meddling in things you don't understand, Mr. Holmes. Watson draws his revolver, but Holmes stays calm, his eyes locked on the stranger. And you, Holmes replies, have made the mistake of underestimating me. Who is she, and where is Eleanor Langley? The man laughs, a sound like breaking ice, and raises a hand. Two more figures step from the shadows, burly men with knives glinting in the lantern light. Watson tenses, but Holmes remains a statue, his voice cutting through the tension. "You're with the Order of the Saffron Veil. You took the Heiress, but you left clues, sloppy ones. The clay, the earring, this ledger. Why?" The man's eyes narrow, but he doesn't answer. Instead, he gestures and the thugs advance. What follows is chaos. Watson fires a warning shot, the sound echoing like thunder in the cave. Holmes moves like lightning, his cane a weapon, disarming one thug with a crack to the wrist. The other lunges, but Watson tackles him, years of army training kicking in. The man with the limp vanishes into the tunnels, his laughter echo. The train from Dover clatters into London's Victoria Station, its steam hissing like a serpent in the early morning gloom. Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson step onto the platform, the ledger from the Dover Cove tucked safely inside Holmes's coat. The city is waking, but the fog lingers, wrapping the streets in a shroud that feels alive with secrets. Holmes's face is taut, his eyes scanning the crowd, porters, newsboys. A woman selling wilted flowers searching for the man with the limp, or any sign of the Order of the Saffron Veil. The ledger's cryptic entry, the heiress's secret. London, October 14th, burns in his mind. Today is the 14th, and a shipment tied to Eleanor Langley's disappearance is due to arrive. "Watson," Holmes says, his voice low, "we're walking into a hornet's nest. Stay sharp." Watson nods, his hand brushing the revolver in his pocket, his soldier's instincts on edge. Their destination is the East End docks, where the ledger hints at a delivery under the Order's control. The question is, will it lead to Eleanor or to another trap? The docks are a chaos of noise and motion, creaking cranes, shouting stevedores, and the stink of fish and tar. Holmes navigates the maze with ease, his eyes catching details Watson misses: a crate marked with a faint crescent moon, a sailor with a saffron scarf tucked into his coat, a nervous clerk glancing over his shoulder. The ledger's code points to a warehouse owned by a shell company. Langley imports a name that sends a chill down Watson's spine. Holmes. "That's the family's business," he says, his voice tight. Holmes's smile is grim. "Indeed, Watson. The Langleys are woven into this deeper than we thought." They approach the warehouse, a hulking structure of blackened brick, its windows bordered like closed eyes. The air grows heavier, the fog thicker, and Watson feels the weight of unseen watchers. Holmes pauses at a side door, his lockpicks glinting. In the dim light, "If Eleanor's secret is here," he murmurs, "so is her enemy inside." The warehouse is a cavern of shadows, stacked with crates and barrels, the air thick with dust and the faint scent of opium. Holmes moves like a ghost, his lantern casting jagged beams across the walls. They find the crate from the ledger, its crescent mark unmistakable, but it's already been opened. Its contents papers, ledgers, perhaps secrets gone. Holmes kneels, inspecting the splinters, and finds a single strand of auburn hair caught in the wood. Eleanor's. Watson breathes, but Holmes shakes his head. Too convenient. Another breadcrumb. His fingers trace a trail of reddish clay over clay leading to a trapdoor in the floor. Below is a hidden room, its walls lined with maps and lists of names, many crossed out. One name stands out: Charles Langley, with a sum of £10,000. Next to it, payment for what? Watson asks, his voice echoing in the damp space. Holmes doesn't answer, his attention caught by a photograph pinned to the wall. Eleanor, smiling at a ball, but her eyes are circled in red ink, a crescent drawn beside her face. A sudden noise, a crate shifting above, makes Watson draw his revolver. Footsteps, heavy and uneven, echo through the warehouse. The man with the limp. Holmes signals for silence, leading them behind a stack of barrels. The footsteps stop, replaced by a low whistle, then voices to men. one with the same cultured tone from the cove. The shipment's secure, he says. But Holmes is too close. We need to move her tonight. Watson's heart races Eleanor's, alive. But Holmes's grip on his arm is iron, warning him to stay still. The second man, his voice rough, mutters, "What about Charles? He's getting cold feet." The limping man laughs. "Cold and sharp. He'll do as he's told or he'll join her." The voices fade and Holmes waits, counting seconds before emerging. "They're moving her," he says, his voice a blade. But where? The photograph, the clay, the names, they're pieces of a puzzle. But the picture is still maddeningly incomplete. Holmes pockets the photograph, his mind racing. We need to confront Charles. He's the key or the bait. They return to the Langley mansion, the fog now a suffocating blanket over Mayfair. The butler, Harrow, hesitates before letting them in, his eyes darting nervously. Lord Reginald is absent, at a meeting with his solicitor, but Charles is there, pacing the parlour, a glass of brandy in his hand. His face pales when he sees Holmes, but he recovers quickly, his smile forced. "Mr. Holmes, any news of my sister?" Holmes's gaze is piercing. "Plenty, Mr. Langley. Care to explain why your name appears in a ledger tied to the Order of the Saffron Veil? The fog of London clings to the streets like a conspirator as Sherlock Holmes, and Dr. Watson leave the Langley mansion, Charles's confession ringing in their ears. The revelation that Eleanor knew something dangerous enough to threaten the Order of the Saffron Veil has shifted the game, and the mysterious figure known as the broker looms larger than ever. Holmes's eyes are alight with focus, his long fingers tracing the edge of the photograph they found in the warehouse Eleanor's face. Circled in red ink, a crescent moon beside it. Watson, clutching the stolen ledger from the Dover Cove, feels the weight of their mission. "Holmes," he says, his voice low as they stride through the mist. "Charles said Eleanor was going to expose the order. If the broker's moving her tonight, we're running out of time." Holmes's response is sharp, like a blade slicing through the fog. "Then we force his hand, Watson. The broker thinks he's hunting us, but we'll turn the hunter into the prey. Their plan is bold and dangerous. Use Charles as bait to draw the broker out, but first they need to confirm the location of the final delivery mentioned in the warehouse map. Their next stop is a derelict theatre in Covent Garden, rumoured to be the broker's lair, where the threads of this mystery might finally start to unravel. The Lyceum Theatre is a ghost of its former glory, its once grand facade crumbling, its marquee faded to a whisper of forgotten plays. The fog swirls around its boarded windows, and the air carries a chill that seeps into Watson's bones. Holmes, undeterred, examines the boards, noting fresh scratches and a faint smear of reddish Dover clay, another breadcrumb in this twisted trail. "Someone's been here recently," he murmurs, his lockpicks glinting as he works the side door. Inside, the theatre is a mausoleum of dust and shadows. The velvet curtains on the stage tattered like funeral shrouds. The air smells of mildew and something sharper, cigarette smoke, cheap and acrid, like the stubs in the Langley mansion. Watson's hand hovers near his revolver, his soldier's instinct screaming that they're not alone. Holmes's lantern casts jagged beams across the auditorium, revealing signs of life: a dropped saffron ribbon, a crumpled playbill marked with a crescent moon, and a map pinned to a wall, its edges curled. The map shows London with locations circled: the Langley mansion, the East End docks, and a warehouse in Limehouse labelled Final Delivery, October 14th. Watson's pulse quickens. "Holmes, that's tonight. Could Eleanor be there?" Holmes's eyes narrow. "Possibly. But this map is too obvious. The broker wants us to find it." Holmes's suspicion leads them to a trapdoor beneath the stage, its hinges oiled and silent, a sign of frequent use. They descend into a basement, the air cold and damp, the walls slick with rot. The chamber is a shrine to the order of the Saffron Veil. Saffron banners hang like spectres. Crescent symbols are carved into the stone, and a locked safe sits in the corner, its steel glinting in the lantern light. Holmes cracks it open with practiced ease, revealing a trove of documents, contracts, blackmail letters, and a list of names that reads like a who's who of London's elite. One document chills Watson's blood, yell leverage secured. Broker to handle disposal. Limehouse. 14th. Watson's voice is tight. Disposal. Holmes, they're going to kill her. Holmes's face is unreadable, but his fingers linger on a letter addressed to C.L., demanding £10,000 for services rendered. Charles, Holmes says softly, or someone posing as him. The broker's playing a deeper game. Watson's mind races back to Eleanor's diary. C is watching me. I can't trust him. Is Charles a traitor or another pawn? Before they can dig deeper, a shadow moves at the edge of the lantern's glow, a figure in a cloak, his limp unmistakable. The broker. His face is still hidden, but his voice is smooth, venomous, like honey laced with arsenic. You're persistent, Mr. Holmes, but you're chasing ghosts. Watson raises his revolver, his heart pounding, but Holmes's hand on his arm stays him. What do you want with Eleanor Langley? Holmes demands, his voice steady as steel. The broker laughs, a sound that echoes off the stone walls. She's a means to an end. You're too late to save her. He tosses a smoke bomb, and the room fills with choking fog, the acrid stench burning Watson's lungs. In the chaos, the broker vanishes, his laughter fading into the tunnels. Holmes, coughing, grabs the documents and pulls Watson back to the stairs. He's taunting us, Holmes says, his eyes blazing. But he's left us a gift, these papers. Limehouse is our next move. Packet to 1B Baker Street. The fog presses against the windows like a living thing, mirroring the tension in the room. Holmes spreads the documents across the table, his pipe sending curls of smoke toward the ceiling. The papers reveal the order's true scope, a blackmail ring targeting London's powerful, with Eleanor's knowledge perhaps a ledger of their crimes as their greatest threat. The final delivery in Limehouse is likely her, or the evidence she holds. Holmes deciphers a coded note mentioning a ship, the Crescent Moon, docked at Limehouse, set to sail at midnight. They're moving her out of England, Holmes says, his voice grim. Or they want us to think they are. Watson's mind reels. Holmes, if Charles is involved, why would he confess? Is he playing both sides? Holmes's smile is thin. Charles is a weak link. The broker's using him, but he's not the mastermind. We need to draw the broker out before that. Ship sails. Holmes's plan is audacious. Send Charles to the broker with a false claim that he's recovered Eleanor's diary, offering it in exchange for her safety. They draft a coded message, delivered via a trusted street urchin from Holmes's baker. Street irregulars. Charles will demand a meeting at Limehouse, Holmes explains, but we'll be there first. Watson, ever practical, worries. Holmes, what if it's a trap? The broker slipped through our fingers twice. Holmes's eyes gleam. Then we spring the trap ourselves. They prepare for the night, Watson checking his revolver, Holmes sharpening his cane's hidden blade. The documents reveal one. More clue, a name, Sir Edmund Vane, a reclusive financier with a limp, rumoured to be tied to the order. Could he be the broker? Holmes files it away, his mind a steel trap dot as midnight approaches. Holmes and Watson head to Limehouse, the fog thicker than ever. The dock's a maze of cranes and shadows. The crescent moon looms at the pier, its hull dark and silent. They hide among the crates, watching for Charles or the broker. A figure approaches Charles, his face pale, clutching a package meant to pass for the diary. But before he can signal, a shot rings out and Charles collapses, blood pooling on the dock. Watson rushes to him, but Holmes's eyes are on the shadows where the broker's limp is just visible, vanishing into the fog. He's alive. Watson calls, pressing his coat to Charles's wound. Holmes kneels, his face grim. The broker's cleaning house. Charles was expendable. The package lies torn open empty, a decoy. The ship's whistle blows, signalling departure. Holmes's decision is instant. We board that ship, Watson. Eleanor's aboard, or the truth is. The chapter closes with Holmes and Watson slipping onto the crescent moon, the fog swallowing the dock behind them. The crescent moon cuts through the Thames, its hull groaning as it slips into the open sea, shrouded in fog so dense it feels like the world has vanished. Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson crouch in the shadows of the ship's deck, the salty air stinging their faces. The gunshot that felled Charles Langley still echoes in Watson's mind. His hands stained with the man's blood, though dock workers shout confirmed Charles was alive. Whisked away by medics, Holmes, his eyes like twin lanterns in the dark, is focused. Every sense attuned to the ship's creaks and the muffled voices of its crew. The crescent moon is no ordinary vessel, its name, tied to the order of the Saffron Veil's symbol, marks it as the heart of their operation. Somewhere aboard, Holmes believes. Is Eleanor Langley or the secret she carries the one the broker is desperate to bury? Holmes. Watson whispers, his revolver heavy in his hand, if Eleanor's. Here. How do we find her on a ship this size? Holmes's voice is a low growl. We've followed the trail, Watson. The order's careless, they've left too many clues. But the fog, the rocking deck, and the unseen eyes watching them make every step feel like a gamble with death. They slip. Below deck, navigating a maze of narrow corridors lit by flickering oil lamps. The air is thick with the stench of tar and something sweeter opium, a scent Holmes recognizes from the East End's dens. The crew is sparse, but every sailor they pass has the hard-eyed look of men who've seen too much. Holmes notices details. Watson misses a saffron thread caught on a nail, a crate marked with a crescent moon, a smear of Dover clay on the floorboards. They're not just smuggling goods, Holmes murmurs, pausing at a locked door. They're smuggling secrets. His lockpicks make quick work of the lock, revealing a storage room stacked with crates, some labeled Langley imports. Watson's jaw tightens. The family's business again. How deep does this go? Holmes pries open a crate, finding ledgers and letters, all coded. But one word stands out, Heiress. Before he can read further, footsteps approach heavy, uneven. The broker's limp. Holmes pulls Watson behind a stack of barrels, his finger to his lips. The broker enters. His face still shadowed, but his presence is a weight. His cultured voice cutting through the creaks of the ship. He's speaking to a burly man with a knife, scar across his cheek. The girl secure below, the broker says, but Holmes is aboard. Find him and end this. Watson's heart leaps. Eleanor's alive. But Holmes's grip tightens, signaling caution. The scarred man nods and leaves, and the broker lingers, his eyes scanning the room as if he senses them. Holmes, ever bold, steps out, his cane raised like a sword. You're losing your touch, broker, he says, his voice calm but lethal. Your men are sloppy and your clues are screaming. The broker's laugh is cold, his limp more pronounced as he steps. Closer. You're clever, Holmes, but you're chasing a shadow. The heiress is mine, and her secret dies with her. He draws a pistol, but Holmes is faster, knocking it away with a flick of his cane. The broker retreats, vanishing into the corridors, and alarms begin to sound, crewmen shouting, boots pounding. Holmes and Watson move deeper into the ship, following the trail of clay to the lower hold. The air grows colder, the walls slick with condensation. They find a locked cell, its door marked with a crescent. Inside, A figure huddles in the darker woman, her auburn hair tangled, her sapphire gown torn. Eleanor. Watson whispers, but Holmes is already picking the lock. The woman looks up, her grey eyes wide with fear. But it's not Eleanor, it's a decoy, a frightened girl paid to play the part. They told me to wait here. She stammers, said it was a game. Holmes's face darkens. Another trick. But the cell isn't empty. A hidden panel reveals a small book. Its pages filled with Eleanor's handwriting, a continuation of her diary. The Order owns half of London, it reads. I found their ledger names, crimes, all of it. See, betrayed me. Watson's voice shakes. Holmes, she's exposing a conspiracy. No wonder they want her gone. The alarms grow louder and the ship lurches, signalling it's turning back toward London, likely to offload its cargo before Holmes can interfere. They pocket the book and move, but the scarred man and 2 others block their path, knives gleaming. Watson fires a shot into the ceiling, scattering them, but the scarred man charges, his blade grazing Watson's arm. Holmes fights like a panther, his cane cracking skulls, but the numbers are against them. They retreat to the deck, the fog a blessing now, hiding them from pursuit. Holmes's mind races. Eleanor's not aboard, but her book is proof she's alive, and the broker's desperation means she's close. We need to get back to London, Holmes says, eyeing the lifeboats. The broker's returning to finish this. They lower a boat, the sea churning below, and row toward shore, the crescent moon fading into the fog like a ghost. Back at 1B. Holmes decodes the new diary pages, revealing a list of names tied to the Order politicians, bankers, even a Scotland Yard inspector. C is mentioned again, but not as Charles. C is the broker, Holmes says, or someone close to him. Charles was a pawn used and discarded. Watson, bandaging his arm, feels the weight of their failure. Holmes, we were so close. Where is she? Holmes's eyes burn. The broker's moving her to Limehouse. That final delivery is our last chance. The chapter ends with Holmes staring at the crescent moon through the window. It's light, cold, and mocking. The game's not over, Watson. The broker's made his move, but I'm ready for the checkmate. What's next in Chapter 7? Holmes and Watson race to Limehouse to intercept the broker's final play, uncovering a shocking betrayal that ties the Order to the heart of the Langley family. Will they save Eleanor, or fall into the broker's trap? Share your guesses in the comments, and hit that like and subscribe button to catch the next twist in this chilling mystery. The fog over London is a living thing, curling through the streets of Limehouse like a predator as Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson disembark from their stolen lifeboat. The chill of the Thames clinging to their clothes. The crescent moon has vanished into the night, but its secrets, Eleanor's hidden diary pages, and the order of the Saffron Veil's blackmail ledger burn in Holmes's mind. The final delivery looms, a deadline that could mean Eleanor Langley's life or death. Holmes's face is a mask of determination, his eyes scanning the shadowy docks where gaslights flicker like dying hopes. Watson, his arm stinging from the knife wound, grips his revolver. His soldiers' resolve hardened by the blood they've already spilled. Holmes, he says, his voice rough, the broker's one step ahead. Charles is wounded, maybe dying. If Eleanor's in Limehouse, how do we find her before he does? Holmes's response is sharp, like a blade in the dark. We don't find her, Watson. We make the broker bring her to us. His arrogance is his weakness. Their plan is desperate. Set a trap at the Limehouse warehouse, using the diary as bait. But first, they need to unravel the betrayal at the heart of the Langley family. Limehouse is a warren of opium dens, gambling houses, and warehouses that stink of rot and secrets. The warehouse from the Lyceum's map looms ahead. It's blackened, walls scarred by years of neglect. Holmes pauses at the entrance. noting fresh wheel marks in the mud, evidence of a recent delivery. The order's been here. He murmurs, his lockpicks glinting as he works the rusted door. Inside, the air is heavy with dust and the faint tang of Dover clay, a scent that's become the thread tying this case together. The warehouse is a labyrinth of crates and barrels, but Holmes's lantern reveals a trail, a saffron ribbon, a cigarette stub, and a blood stain on the floor, still wet. Watson's stomach twists. Eleanor's. Holmes kneels, examining the stain. Not hers. Mail. Likely Charles's. He was brought here after the docks. The trail leads to a hidden office. Its door ajar, papers scattered across a desk. Among them is a letter, unsigned but in Eleanor's handwriting. See, betrayed me to save himself. The ledger is my only weapon. Watson's voice is grim. Charles sold her out. Holmes's mind races, piecing together the puzzle. The ledger from the Crescent Moon named Charles Langley among the order's pawns. Paid £10,000 for services, but the diary suggests C is someone else, someone higher. Perhaps the broker himself. Holmes finds a photograph among the papers, showing Eleanor at a charity ball, arm in arm with a man whose face is scratched out. A crescent moon is scrawled in the corner. This is personal, Holmes says, his voice low. The broker's not just silencing Eleanor, he's erasing her. Watson's eyes narrow. But why? What does she know that's worth all this? Before Holmes can answer, a noise, a soft thud, like a body hitting the floor, echoes from deeper in the warehouse. They move silently, Holmes's cane ready, Watson's revolver drawn. In a back room. They find a man slumped against a crate, blood pooling from a knife wound. It's not Charles, but Jack Tanner, the smuggler from the Black Anchor, his scarred, face pale in death. The broker's tying loose ends, Holmes says, checking Tanner's pockets. He finds a note, scrawled in haste, meet at the warehouse midnight. Bring the ledger or she dies. The crescent symbol is stamped at the bottom. Watson's heart pounds. Holmes, that's in an hour. The broker's coming here. Holmes's smile is grim. Good, we'll be ready. They rig the warehouse with traps, ropes to trip, crates to block, turning it into a battlefield. Holmes sends a message to Inspector Lestrade, requesting backup, but time is against them. The diary's final entry haunts Watson. The crescent binds us all. Was Eleanor part of the order, or its greatest threat? Midnight approaches, and the fog outside thickens, muffling the sounds of Limehouse. A figure emerges, tall, limping, his face still hidden by a scarf. The broker. He's not alone. Two men flank him, their knives catching the lantern light. Holmes steps into view, holding the diary aloft. You want this, he says, his voice steady. Where's Eleanor? The broker's laugh is cold, his limp more pronounced as he steps closer. You're predictable, Holmes. The girl's where she belongs, out of reach. Hand over the diary and you might live. Watson, hidden behind a crate, aims his revolver, but Holmes signals to wait. You're Sir Edmund Vane, Holmes says, his words a dart. Financier, recluse and the order's puppet master. Eleanor, found your ledger, proof of your blackmail empire. The broker stiffens, his scarf slipping to reveal a gaunt face, eyes burning with rage. Clever, he hisses, but not clever enough. The trap springs. Watson fires, scattering the broker's men, while Holmes triggers a rope, dropping a crate that blocks their path. Chaos erupts, knives flash, shouts echo, and Vane vanishes into the shadows. Lestrade's men arrive, their whistles piercing the fog, but the broker is gone, leaving one of his men behind, wounded. Under interrogation, the man reveals Eleanor is alive, hidden in a safe house nearby, but Vane plans to flee England with her secrets. Holmes's eyes blaze. He's underestimated us again, Watson. The safe house is our next move. The chapter ends with Holmes and Watson racing through. Limehouse, the fog a suffocating veil. Eleanor's diary, clutched in Holmes's hand, is their last hope. But the broker's betrayal cuts deeper than they feared. Was Charles the traitor? Or is the truth even closer to the Langley family's heart? What's next in Chapter 8? Holmes and Watson storm the safe house, facing a revelation that turns the case upside down and brings them face to face with Eleanor, or her ghost. Who is the true mastermind behind the order? Drop your theories in the comments and hit that like and subscribe button to catch the next twist in this chilling mystery. The fog in Limehouse is a thick, choking shroud, turning the narrow streets into a maze where every shadow seems to whisper betrayal. Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson move swiftly, their boots splashing through puddles as they follow the wounded. Thugs' directions to the order of the Saffron Veil safe house a crumbling tenement. At the edge of the docks, its windows dark as empty eyes. Eleanor Langley's diary, clutched in Holmes's hand, is their guide. Its cryptic words, "The crescent binds us all," a haunting refrain. Watson's arm throbs from his earlier wound, but his grip on his revolver is steady. His soldiers, hearts steeled for what lies ahead. Holmes, he whispers, his breath misting in the cold. If Eleanor's in there, the broker Vane won't let her go easily. What if it's another trap? Holmes's eyes gleam, sharp as a blade in the gaslight. Then we turn his trap against him, Watson. The broker's running out of moves, and his desperation is our advantage. The safe house looms, its door slightly ajar, a faint glow of candlelight flickering within. The air carries the now familiar scent of Dover clay and cheap tobacco, a sign they're close to the truth. They slip inside. The tenement's interior a warren of creaking, floorboards and peeling wallpaper. The air is stale, heavy with the tang of opium and fear. Holmes's lantern casts long shadows, revealing signs of recent occupation, a saffron sash draped over a chair, a crescent moon scratched into a wall, a half-burned letter in the fireplace. Watson's heart leaps as he spots a woman's shawl, sapphire blue, like Eleanor's gown. Holmes, she's been here, he says, but Holmes's silence is unnerving. His eyes scanning every detail, the scuff marks on the floor, the angle of a chair, the faint smear of blood on a door frame. Not her, Holmes murmurs, but someone who wants us to think so. He kneels, examining the blood, and his face hardens. Fresh, male. The broker's cleaning house again. Watson's stomach twists another loose end, like Jack Tanner, cut away. They move deeper, following a narrow staircase to the upper floor, where a locked door waits, its frame marked with a crescent. Holmes's lockpicks make quick work of the door, revealing a small room lit by a single candle. A figure sits in the corner, shrouded in a cloak, head bowed. Eleanor. Watson calls, his voice trembling with hope. The figure stirs, lifting her head, and for a moment, Watson's heart stops. It's her. Eleanor Langley, her auburn hair tangled, her grey eyes wide with fear. But Holmes's hand on his arm is a warning. Look closer, he says, his voice low. The woman's features are wrong, her cheekbones to sharp, her eyes to pale. It's another decoy, a lookalike hired by the order. They paid me, she whispers, trembling. Said to wait here, to pretend I was her. I didn't know they'd kill anyone. Watson's anger flares, but Holmes is calm, his questions precise. Who paid you? Where's the real Eleanor? The woman points to a hidden panel in the wall. Her voice breaking. They took her through there, to the docks. The broker said she's too dangerous to live. Holmes pries open the panel, revealing a tunnel smelling of salt and decay leading toward the Thames. The passage is narrow, its walls slick with damp, and the distant sound of water lapping against wood echoes ahead. They emerge at a hidden pier where a small boat bobs in the fog. It's all's abandoned. A crate nearby bears the Langley imports mark, and inside, Holmes finds a ledger, Eleanor's true ledger, not the decoy diary, filled with names, dates, and crimes that could topple London's elite. This is what she found, Holmes says. His voice grim, the order's entire operation: blackmail, extortion, murder. She was going to expose them. Watson's eyes widen as he reads a name, Sir Edmund Vane, the broker, listed as the order's enforcer, but above him is another, see, marked as the true leader. Not Charles, Watson breathes. Then who? Holmes's face is a mask of focus. Someone close to the Langleys. Someone we've overlooked. A sudden noise, a limping step cuts through the fog. The broker, Vane, emerges, his pistol gleaming, his scarf gone, revealing a gaunt face twisted with rage. You're too late, Holmes, he sneers. The heiress is on a ship to France, and her secrets go with her. Watson raises his revolver, but Vane's men appear from the shadows, outnumbering them. Holmes, unflinching, holds up the ledger. This ends your empire, Vane. Every name, every crime. You're finished. Vane's laugh is desperate, his limp more pronounced as he backs toward the boat. You think you've won. See, Will, bury you both. He fires a shot, grazing Holmes's shoulder, and dives into the boat, his men covering his escape. Watson returns fire, scattering them, but Vane vanishes into the fog. The boat's all splashing faintly. Holmes, clutching his shoulder, is undeterred. He's running, Watson. That means Eleanor's still in London. We find C, we find her. They return to 1B. The ledger spread across the table. Holmes is wound bandaged, but his mind relentless. The names in the ledger point to a conspiracy that reaches the highest echelons: politicians, judges, even a royal cousin. But C remains a ghost, their identity hidden behind coded initials. Watson recalls Lady Margaret's fear, Lord Reginald's absence, and a chilling possibility forms. Holmes could be someone in the Langley household. Not Charles, but Lady Margaret? Holmes's eyes narrow, considering. Possible. Her fear seemed genuine, but fear can be a mask. The ledger mentions a meeting at the Langley mansion tomorrow, coded as the Crescent's End. Holmes's plan is clear: infiltrate the meeting, expose C, and save Eleanor. The chapter ends with Holmes staring into the fog, the ledgers, weight heavy in his hands. We're close, Watson, he says, but the closer we get, the more dangerous this becomes. What's next in Chapter 9? Holmes and Watson infiltrate the Langley mansion's secret meeting, facing a revelation that ties C to the heart of the conspiracy. Will they save Eleanor? Or has the broker outplayed them? Share your theories in the comments and hit that like and subscribe button to catch the next twist in this chilling mystery. The fog over London has thinned, but the air remains heavy with secrets as Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson approach the Langley mansion in Mayfair, their silhouettes sharp against the dawn's pale light. The ledger from the Limehouse safe house, a damning catalogue of the order of the Saffron Veil's crimes, is tucked inside Holmes's coat. Its weight a reminder of the stakes. Eleanor Langley is alive, Holmes is certain of it, but her fate hangs on unmasking C, the true mastermind behind the order. The coded meeting labelled the Crescent's End, set for tonight in the Langley mansion, is their last chance to find her. Watson, his revolver cleaned and loaded, feels the tension like a coiled spring. Holmes, he says, his voice low as they pause in the shadow of a gaslight. If C is in that house, they've been playing us from the start. Could it really be Lady Margaret or someone else? Holmes's eyes, sharp as flint, betray a flicker of uncertainty. We'll know soon enough, Watson. The order's desperate, and desperation breeds mistakes. Their plan is to infiltrate the meeting, posing as members of the order, using a stolen saffron sash and the ledger as their ticket in. But the mansion, with its silent windows and looming walls, feels like a trap waiting to snap shut. They slip into the grounds through a servant's gate, the gravel crunching softly underfoot. The mansion is quiet, the usual bustle of staff absent. Holmes notices fresh wheel marks leading to a side entrance evidence of a recent delivery. Perhaps the broker's doing. Inside, the air is thick with the scent of cigar smoke and polish, but there's something else, a faint metallic tang like blood. The grand hall is dark. Its chandeliers unlit, but a glow spills from the library where muffled voices murmur. Holmes adjusts the saffron sash over his coat, his face a mask of calm confidence, while Watson tucks the ledger under his jacket, his heart pounding. They approach the library door, where a servant Harrow, the gaunt butler, stands guard, his eyes narrowing. "Name your business," he growls. But Holmes flashes the sash and speaks a coded phrase from the ledger. "The crescent binds us." Harrow hesitates, then steps aside, his gaze lingering too long. Watson feels a chill. Harrow knows more than he's letting on. The library is a den of shadows, lit by candles arranged in a crescent pattern on a long table. A dozen figures, cloaked and masked, sit in silence, their saffron sashes glinting. At the head is a figure in a black cloak, their face hidden, but their posture is commanding. Holmes and Watson take seats at the edge, their disguises holding for now. The figure speaks, their voice low and familiar to familiar. The heiresses. "Interference ends tonight," they say. The ledger is secure, and her silence is assured. Watson's blood runs cold. It's Lady Margaret's voice, her refined accent unmistakable. Holmes's hand tightens on his cane, but he remains still, his eyes scanning the room. The other members murmur agreement, mentioning names from the ledger: politicians, bankers, a judge all blackmailed by the order. Watson whispers Holmes. "It's her." Lady Margaret is C, but Holmes's gaze is fixed on a side door, where a limping figure slips in. Sir Edmund Vane, the broker, his gaunt face unmasked, his eyes burning with triumph. Vane speaks, addressing Lady Margaret. "The ship is ready, my lady. The girls aboard, bound for France." The ledger's decoy worked Holmes' chased shadows. Watson's heart sinks, but Holmes's whisper is fierce. "Not all shadows, Watson. They don't know we have the real ledger." The meeting shifts to plans for dispersing the order's wealth, with Lady Margaret orchestrating every move. Holmes listens, piecing together the truth Eleanor discovered. The order's blackmail ring, led by her own mother, who used Charles as a pawn and Vane as an enforcer. Lady Margaret's fear was a performance, her tears a lie to keep suspicion at bay. But where is Eleanor now? Holmes signals Watson, and they slip toward the side door, where a hidden staircase leads to the mansion's upper floors. Harrow, suspicious, follows, but Holmes disables him with a swift blow from his cane, leaving him slumped in the shadows. The staircase leads to a locked attic, its door marked with a crescent. Inside, they find her Eleanor Langley, bound and gagged, her sapphire gown in tatters, her grey eyes fierce despite her ordeal. "Holmes," she gasps as Watson frees her. "My mother, she's the head of the order. She betrayed me when I found her ledger." Watson's shock is palpable, but Holmes is already moving, helping Eleanor to her feet. "We're not safe yet," he says, hearing footsteps below Vane and his men. Alerted by Harrow's absence, the attic has a window leading to the roof, and Holmes leads them out, the fog a mixed blessing as they balance on the slick tiles. Vane's voice echoes from below, furious. "Find them. The ledger can't leave this house." Watson fires a warning shot, buying time, but the roof is a dead end, the drop to the ground dizzying. Eleanor, weak but resolute, points to a drain pipe. "It's our only way," she says, and Holmes nods, his shoulder wound, slowing him, but not stopping him. They descend, the fog hiding them as they reach the gardens. Lestrade's men, summoned by Holmes's earlier message, arrive, their whistles cutting through the night. Vane and his men scatter, but Lady Margaret remains in the library, her composure cracking as Holmes confronts her, ledger in hand. "Your empire ends tonight," he says, his voice cold. Lady Margaret's eyes blaze, but she's cornered, her allies fleeing. "You don't understand," she hisses. "The order protected our family's legacy." Eleanor, trembling but defiant, steps forward. "You sold me for power, mother." The chapter ends with Lestrade's men storming the mansion, Lady Margaret in cuffs, and the Langley mansion stands silent under a grey dawn, its grandeur marred by the chaos of the night. Lady Margaret in custody, her role a sea. The mastermind of the Order of the Saffron Veil, exposed, and Eleanor Langley, the missing heiress, now safe but shaken, her eyes haunted by her mother's betrayal. Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson stand in the grand hall, the ledger of the Order's crimes heavy in Holmes's hands. Its page is a map of corruption that could topple London's elite, but the victory feels hollow. Sir Edmund Vane, the broker, has slipped through their fingers, his limping footsteps lost in the fog. Eleanor, wrapped in a borrowed cloak, clutches Watson's arm, her voice steady despite her ordeal. "He's still out there, Mr. Holmes. Vane won't stop, he knows I can identify him." Holmes's eyes, sharp as ever despite the blood seeping, through his bandaged shoulder meet hers. "Then we end this, Miss Langley. Vane's running, but no one outruns the truth." Watson, his revolver still warm from the night's chaos, feels the weight of unfinished business. "Holmes," he says, "where do we even start? The fog's his ally, and London's his playground." Holmes's smile is thin, dangerous. "He's wounded," Watson metaphorically and perhaps literally. "We hunt him where he's weakest." Their first clue comes from Eleanor. Shivering but resolute, she reveals a detail from her captivity. Vane mentioned a safe harbour in Wapping, a derelict shipyard where the Order stashes its final secrets. He boasted about it, she says, a place where no one looks, where he could vanish if the Order fell. Holmes's mind races, cross-referencing the ledger's coded entries. One stands out: Wapping Yard, Crescent Cache, the shipyard. Is their target a sprawling maze of rusted hulks and abandoned docks, perfect for a man like Vane to disappear or stage a final stand? They set out, leaving Eleanor with Inspector Lestrade's men for protection. The fog is lighter now, but the Thames's damp chill clings to their bones as they reach Wapping, its shipyard a graveyard of broken masts and rotting timbers. Watson's hand rests on his revolver, his eyes scanning the shadows. Holmes, this feels like walking into his trap again. Holmes's response is calm but firm. "Let him think he's set the board, Watson. We're playing for checkmate." The shipyard is eerily quiet. The only sounds the creak of old wood and the lap of water against the docks. Holmes spots signs of Vane's presence, a fresh smear of Dover clay, a cigarette stub still smouldering, a saffron thread caught on a splintered plank. "He's here," Holmes murmurs, his cane tapping softly as they move deeper. They find a derelict warehouse, its doors chained but freshly cut, the lock dangling like a broken promise. Inside, the air is thick with dust and the metallic tang of blood. A trail of it leads to a crate where a man lies slumped, not Vane, but one of his lieutenants, his throat cut. "Vane's burning his bridges," Holmes says, his voice grim. He's alone now and desperate. Watson's heart pounds as they follow the trail to a hidden loft, its ladder slick with damp. At the top, they find it, a cache of documents, gold, and weapons the Order's last reserves. But no Vane. Instead, a note pinned to a crate reads, "You're too late, Holmes." The crescent rises again. Watson's frustration boils over. He's mocking us, Holmes. He's got no men, no order, and still he's slipping away. But Holmes's eyes are on a faint scratch in the floorboards, a crescent, pointing to a trapdoor. They descend into a sublevel, the air cold and rank with decay. There, in the flickering light of a single lantern, stands Vane, his gaunt face, pale, his pistol aimed at a bound figure in the corner. Eleanor. They switched me, she gasps. Her voice hoarse. Lestrade's men were order spies. Vane's laugh is ragged, his limp pronounced as he steps forward. You've lost, Holmes. The girl. The ledger, the truth, it all dies here. Watson raises his revolver, but Vane's finger is on the trigger, Eleanor in his sights. Holmes, calm as ice, steps forward, the ledger raised like a shield. You've miscalculated, Vane. The ledger's already with Scotland Yard. Copies are being made. Your empire's finished. Whether you kill her or not, Vane's eyes flicker with doubt, and Holmes seizes the moment. Tossing a vial of chemicals from his pocket, a blinding flash of light and smoke. Watson dives, tackling Eleanor to safety as Holmes grapples with Vane, his cane cracking against the pistol, sending it skittering. Vane fights like a cornered animal, his knife slashing, but Holmes is relentless, his movements precise despite his wounded shoulder. Watson fires, grazing Vane's leg, and the broker stumbles, his limp betraying him. Holmes pins him, his voice a low growl. Who's above you? Who rebuilt the order after Lady Margaret? Vane's smile is twisted, blood trickling from his lip. You'll never know, Holmes. The crescent never falls. Before Holmes can press further, Vane bites down a hidden cyanide capsule and collapses, his eyes glazing over. Watson checks Eleanor, alive but shaken, her wrists raw from the ropes. It's over, she whispers. But Holmes's face is grim. Not yet, Watson. Vane was a pawn, too. They return to 1B with Eleanor, the ledger now in Lestrade's hands, its contents dismantling the order's network. Lady Margaret's trial looms. Charles recovers in